Some believe in the person of Jesus, but don't believe that he rose from the dead and ascended. What are some of the signs or evidence that he rose from the dead?
Well, the thing, oh man, how to put that in a nutshell? I'll just start talking and see what happens. Well, you know, the Gospels on the whole, I would argue, and I talk about this a lot in Letters from a Skeptic, as well as the Jesus Legend. The Gospels on the whole give us every indication that they're basically reliable documents. All the kind of criteria that historians look for, they pass. And so the fact that the resurrection account is part of that already gives it a lot of credibility. With regard to the resurrection accounts in particular, there's particular reasons for holding the accounts to be authentic. For example, you find an overwhelming amount of eyewitness detail in the resurrection accounts. Read John chapter 20, verses 1 through 10. John is there telling us, who ran faster to the tomb and who looked in first and all these other kind of things. And that's the kind of thing you look for when you're trying to assess whether or not this relies on eyewitness accounts or not. On top of that, you got to ask this question. If the resurrection didn't happen, then what was the fire that explains why the early disciples claimed the resurrection happened, claimed the tomb was empty, claimed to have had 40 days where they hung out with the resurrected Jesus? That's smoke that needs to be explained. If in fact they're telling the truth, then everything is explained. If they're not telling the truth, then what is the counter explanation? And now we're back to the lie, legend hypothesis, and neither of those, I think, are very persuasive. And so I hang with the truth that... Here's one more thing. You've got 5 accounts of the resurrection in the New Testament. You got Paul's, and you've got Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John's. What's interesting is they don't agree on every detail. And sometimes people use that to argue against the resurrection. Some of the detail is skewed. But what's interesting is this. If they were making the thing up, now why they'd make a thing up, we don't know. But if they're going to make it up, wouldn't they agree on those kind of details? The fact that we have differences here, and I don't think they're irreconcilable contradictions, but the fact that there are differences shows us that we have 5 independent or relatively independent strands of tradition here, the story being passed on. So you don't have to, not only do you have to account for why any particular strand got birthed and carried on, but why do you have 5 different strands that got birthed and carried on? If Jesus rose from the dead, all's explained. If he didn't, that's either lie or legend, and good luck with that one.